Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Changemaker Challenge. This is a series that I've been running. It was only supposed to be 14 days. We just carried it on because so many entrepreneurs with interesting backgrounds and gifts to impart have just I've got the most amazing people in my life, and I want to share their gifts with you. And today we have a very, very special speaker with us. He's a speaker, he's international, he's won a Guinness World Book of Records. I mean, gosh, there's so many aspects to this global change maker, and I can't wait to get sticking into his business a little bit. So come along and join us. Let us know in the comments. Tell us who you are, because sometimes we can't see when you put a comment on there. We don't know who you are. So tell us your name. Come and say hello. And as we go through this amazing interview, if you've got any questions, just stick them in the comments. So without further ado, I can't wait to introduce you to the social media monetizer, Mr. Paul O'Mahony. Hello.
Hello, everybody. Hey, Sammy. Thanks so much for having me here.
Oh, you are very welcome. Thank you for making time in your diary. I know you are absolutely stacked. Just even getting this time together was like, how are we going to do that? You are flying all over the world. And I really want to get behind that because, you know, there are millions of people that talk about social media, right? And we know there are lots of them. They're all running events and they're talking about social media, but you are crushing it. You are on all of the big stages. You're the one that's getting these offers to go and speak on the stages with Tony Robbins and all of the key world leaders. I mean, you must have worked your tail off to get there. What would you say is that you've learned on that journey about sticking out, standing out, and showing up?
Wow. How long have we got? Well, listening to you in the last half an hour, Sammy, you touched on actually some of the key points. Listening to your gut, doing what you feel is right, speaking about what you believe in, being authentic in your message, figuring out what that message is, figuring out how to shorten that message into a pitch, and then figuring out how to get that pitch to inspire a group of people to follow you as a leader, as an inspirational message for them to also align to, regardless of what they decide to do after they meet you. So
yeah,
I need to go back and listen to that recording.
Well, you know, I mean, there's this thing, isn't there? Because it's like, you know, I know certainly in my industry, everybody has the word branding, and it's like, oh, I'm a branding expert, you know, and yet they've never done anything to do with branding. They might be a PA that has started, you know, managing some of the logo and things like that. All of a sudden, they've got branding on their CV. You know, there's a lot of people that are out there that are saying they do what they do. I remember when I first launched How to Build a Brand, which is nearly 6 years old. And I remember doing the keyword research and seeing, you know, how to build a brand. It's like, oh, what a great search. You know, there's so many millions of people searching for this. I bought the domain name. And then when I looked at how many people I was competing against, there were 174 million search results on Google for How to Build a Brand. A very competitive industry. So I could so easily have said, oh, actually, who am I? Little old me. There's no point in me trying to do it. But with the right strategy, which is what you teach, I was able to go from 174 million to number 3 on the first page of Google in just 12 weeks. So being social, creating relationships, engagement, they're massive things, and we have so many abilities to do that with social media. Paul, tell us a bit about what you've learned about social media, because it's been a big part of your strategy as you've grown, hasn't it?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I started 10 years ago, Sammy. I was in a corporate job for 9 years. Wasn't a fan of social media, not technical whatsoever. I didn't have a Twitter account even. I had a Facebook account I used from time to time. But it's really ironic that the guy who really didn't like it, and to this day I'm not a huge fan of it, you know, I mean, as how regular people use it, has completely looked at it from a different perspective. And I guess that's what happens lots of times. The people who end up innovating in an area are the ones that aren't using it the way that it's intended to be used. So where most people use it with a distraction, as a distraction in their lives or from their lives, I see it as that's the biggest opportunity that anybody could have, is that you're going to a place where people want to hang out without being forced to. They actually want to be there. They want to see the message. They want to be excited. They want to be entertained. They want to be educated. So if you want to make any kind of a change or an impact on the planet, you have to kind of know what your message is, as I said already, but ultimately you need to know where your peeps are hanging out, and you got to go there whether you like it or not. It's not about you. It's about you understanding where your avatar fits. When you've got 2.5 billion people more or less on Facebook, it's like you'd be crazy not to be hanging out there, whether you have your own judgment around how it works or what you think of it, whether you like it or not. It's really understanding it from the other person's perspective. And I often talk about the irony about the word social media is that it contains the word me and two eyes, like literally me and two eyes. And that's where most people go wrong, because all they do is consistently talk about themselves over like me and I and I and me and I. So I try to reframe it and say, think of it as social media. Make it about the other person on the other end. What do they want to hear? What do they need to understand about your brand that makes you different? And it's interesting when you say there was such huge competition in that search term when you started. I heard Tom Bellew just recently saying, no matter how busy a niche is, there's always room for the best. You know, and that's kind of a great way of looking at it. It's like, you know, why am I focused on other people? And I'd say that's one of my biggest advantages. Some might argue it's a weakness too, but I spend no time looking at what others are doing, or limited, should I say, because you can really get into this place of feeling disempowered, feeling you're not good enough, you're doing the wrong thing, maybe I should be doing this. You get distracted, you lose your core message, you lose what you're about. And like what you were talking about earlier, you might start, one of the carnal sins I feel in business is you start focusing on the money rather than focusing on the outcome that you're providing and the impact that results from that. Banks do not have your money, people do. Stop focusing on the money, focus on people. You know, it's so important.
I think you are reeling them out tonight. Literally, I've got smoke coming off my keys. I'm typing all these amazing things that you're sharing as banners to just highlight, you know, the big key things. And I'm like, you just did another one. I've only just finished that one. That is so key. Banks do not have your money. People do. Like, I've never heard that.
Go into any bank, look at what's happening. The person that's uncomfortable with their money is passing it into the teller. The person who's really comfortable with spending it is taking that person's money, paying a fee for that guy who just handed it to them, and out they go for that person to collect it back and drive it back into the bank. 2% is all a bank needs to keep legally of all lodgements. So just remember that. The money is not in there, it's straight back outside. So focus on helping people. And I know Zig Ziglar said this, you know, you can have anything you want if you just help others get what they want. But he is missing a few words, and charge for it, or and know how to charge for it. Because that's often missed. You know, I've met a lot of mothers. And they said, Paul, I've been doing that my whole life and I'm miserable. I say, well, you're not charging for your value. And they say, yeah, you're right there. You know, and that's a whole other issue that we can get into, guilt and should I, and how do you know your value, etc. But when you have a clear message, a clear brand, a clear authentic feel about you that just radiates, where you're not clingy, needy, and which creates this repulsion. When you radiate and draw people in, they know first and foremost, regardless of what you have to offer them, that they want to be around you, that there's something different about you, that you care about them, you remember their names, things like that everybody dismissed, like, oh, you don't, I'm terrible with names, all these kind of things that are actually related to your focus on money rather than on people. And sometimes that's difficult to hear, but it's a fact. It's absolutely a fact. You always remember the names of the people you care about.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and it's funny, and that's one of the reasons why I started running this series, not only for the speakers, but also for the people who have signed up for the Vision, Voice and Visibility Summit. I'm planning to interview every single person, even after the summit, because I think it's important that even when you're connecting on social media, that it is social, that you actually get a you know, a 360 perspective of what that person feels like, and that it's not just this kind of 2D, here's a photo, and, you know, trying to create that kind of engagement. And it's kind of turned into a whole series, which we're now turning into a podcast with Woon, who's also speaking at the summit. So it makes such a difference when, you know, business is personal, as Penny Power, OBE, says. You know, she's really nailed it. And you know, and if you think like her and Thomas, her husband, they built the world's very first online business social network. And you know, to create a network that has over 650,000 followers and subscribers to that, and to create a personal relationship. I mean, they're pretty sure that they knew every single person on their network. I mean, that is really quite outstanding. And Simon's on here today. Hi, Simon. Simon's going to be at the summit. You know, it's so important when you are building your brand that you do consider who is on the other end of it. There's so much assumption that's made when people make their products, make their courses, and then they start trying to sell them, and then no one buys it, and they think the product has failed. But usually it's not. It's the branding, the positioning, and understanding the customer that has actually failed. It's delivering what the customer wants. Paul, this is, of course, Confessions of a Global Changemaker.
Yes.
So what would be a confession that you would have, that you would say, do you know what? Here's something that I went through. It was horrendous. I wouldn't want anybody else on their business journey to go through it. And anybody that is going through it, here's how I handled it, or here's how I would never handle it that way again. Here's what I would do if I were you. What would be your confession going back over the years?
Yeah, it's like you're giving me the question to prepare, because I know the answer clearly is for me, when I started out, when I speak, I'm speaking to myself as much as anybody else, to remind myself of my own lessons. You know, because often they say, listen to the message, not the messenger. And that's so true. Often we need to follow our own message, because you say it so often, you can almost get lost in it. But for me, when I started out, I've no problem saying it now. I had a clear objective: get rich. It's all about the money. Quit the job. Bahamas, baby. Big cars, big houses, big everything else. And that was totally the focus. And I don't want anybody to feel guilty for that. I think it's actually, you're better off being aware of it and thinking, okay, right, I'm at this stage in my development, but that will not keep you going. There's one of the things I'm known for is, some people call me the ion guy, you know, as in an ion is the charged particle. And so much of our language in the English language finishes with letters like ION, from action, conversion, interaction. All these words end in ION. And basically, if you look at the word motivation is a motive to get charged. A motive to get charged. That's what motivation is. It's somebody, you requiring a motive to charge you up to do something. Often it's something, if you require motivation, all that it means is that you need an external force to get you to do something that's naturally low in your values. Otherwise, you wouldn't need to be motivated to do it. You'd be doing it naturally because you'd be inspired. So money is a short-term motivator. It charges you up for a while, and it enables you, of course, to charge others, and this continual charge continues. However, it's very short-term, and you focus on the wrong things. You focus on all about me, all about what can I get, what can I do as quickly as possible to get money in. So you start focusing on launches, on the next quick thing that you can do, rather than stepping back and think, hang on a second. And this takes time, unless you have a mentor or a coach. This takes a lot of time and learning to appreciate. Even things like you just said, that you take a product to the market, people need it. So why didn't it work? Well, clearly it was something to do with just the wrong people didn't get in front of it. 42%, there was a study done by Fortune magazine that said that 42% of entrepreneurs who in the US, I think there was over 1,000 of them interviewed, about why they thought their business failed. Why did they go bankrupt? 42% said lack of customer need. And it was a winner by a mile. And even though their business failed, they still have missed the point. It was nothing to do with lack of customer need. It was lack of customer want. The customer didn't want it. It wasn't that they didn't need it. we need to lose weight. We need to save more money.
Yes.
It's what you want. So ultimately, when it's about the money, you start to think about, what do I think people need, and you're driving it. You're literally taking your values and you're projecting it onto others. Usually this happens as a parent, because you get so accustomed to being the boss at home that your kids don't eat their greens, and you say you're going to eat your greens. They say, no, I'm not eating my greens. You need to eat your greens. No, I'm not eating my greens. Okay, you're grounded. I don't care. Okay, you're not going to play the computer games for a week. I don't care. Well, now you're grounded for 2 weeks. Eventually you're going to win that little argument with your children, because they rely on living and eating within your home. But when you take that approach to the market and say, I've got the best product of all time, nobody cares. The customer speaks with their wallet, and they're going to purchase all day long what they want above what they need. So a lesson you can learn right from the start is the sweet spot in business is get out of the way of your own ego and just look at what people want. And the perfect place to be in business is when you can find what people want and need. You have now hit the perfect intersection. And I remember John Assaraf said that to me years ago, the first time we spoke on stage together. He said, Paul, you were in a very unique position. He said, you're not just selling what people want, you're selling what they need. He said, I don't even know if you appreciate it. And I said, well, I never heard it in such a way, but I absolutely understand now 100% what he means. And that gives a whole new meaning to Zig Ziglar. You can have everything in life that you want if you will give other people what they want. He never said give them what they need. That doesn't necessarily return in giving them what's best for them. So ultimately, you can learn that lesson from the outset. Is they give people what they want. Don't let money be your primary motivator, because let me tell you something. If it is, there'll never be enough. You'll get 1 million, then 5 million, then it's 10 million, then it's 100 million, then it's 1 billion, then it's 10 million. You'll always feel ungrateful. You'll always feel like you don't have enough. Plus, it's all about you. So the biggest learning for me was when a child came to my workshop and he made 150 pounds in 11 minutes. And I remember thinking, I'm teaching the wrong freaking generation. Because he wasn't questioning the internet, the phone, the Wi-Fi connection. He just got on with it. He wanted to make some money. He went and did it. And I had a friend who used to play rugby for Australia, still does actually. And he was 10 years younger than me. And everything he did on social media was around helping his foundation in Zimbabwe, where he was brought up, and helping locals there empower themselves, grow their own businesses, set up their own sanitation schemes and systems, which is becoming popular now again with Bill Gates and stuff. And I remember thinking, how is this kid, how has he got such a bigger vision that he's willing to, in my eyes, sacrifice his brand to not make a financial impact from it personally, but to make a difference? And it really got me thinking. And the following weekend, that child made 150 pounds. I said, that's it. I get it. This was all meant to happen. This is all very serendipitous. I need to help the next generation. And I will charge rich kids' parents, but I will give it to free for all the poor kids around the planet. And that created my next business, which is financial freedom, putting the fun and finance for children. And the people that are coming this weekend are going to meet a couple of my speakers at that. And we got in front of our first event. We had 55,000 teenagers in Johannesburg last June, where we gave them all a copy of our book. And that's when you truly understand the power of making an impact. And that's what inspires me now. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning. That's what keeps me up late at night. It's all these kids that don't even know me yet, and the impact I can make on them through social initially, yes, and through those, it started with money, I admit, but that very quickly goes down the pecking order when you actually start turning away money and actually start in return for choosing options where you feel you make a bigger impact beyond yourself. So I do ask people to do this exercise. Sorry, Sammy, I'm just really into this. Is if you had a spare £100,000 and you couldn't get access to it and you couldn't give it to a friend or family and you had to donate it to a cause, I said, what would that be?
Go.
Sorry. I lost you there for a minute. Will I keep speaking? You've just gone blurry. If you want to nod your head.
It's just going a bit funky. We've got a few internet gremlins. We will keep giving it the love. I love technology and technology loves me. Everybody repeat that. Write it in the comments. Let's give it the energy and hopefully we'll keep swimming. Keep going, Paul.
Yeah, so if you had that spare £100,000, what would it be? Now, I know you guys are a change makers, so you probably have this lined up or you're starting to think that way, but it shifts people in my workshop. When then I say, right, write down the blank foundation for, and write in what that you'd give that money to. And once they've written that down, I then say, now in those 2 blank lines, write down your name. Write down your name. And then I make them applaud themselves, because I say, for the first time in your life, you have just taken a step that's going to allow you leave a legacy beyond you. Foundations outlive people. Inspiration outlives motivation. Right? The moment you begin to, the minute that you stop inspiring, you start expiring. So this is so important for people to understand these concepts, that there's much more at play. We've got so little time left in terms of...
I don't know what is going on. Paul, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly, yeah.
Hello, yes. Hello. It looks like we're still live. Guys and girls, could you just put in the comments, can you still hear us? It seems like we've got a dodgy internet connection. Could you make sure that nobody else in the house is using it? I don't think anybody else.
Oh, it looks like we've lost Sammy. Guys, I think we're still streaming, so I'm going to keep chatting if that's okay with you guys. Let me just check in the group. So if I see myself here on my laptop, I'm just going to keep chatting to you guys if that's okay. Unfortunately, I cannot see your questions. Sammy can, but yeah. Okay, I do see myself. I am live, so I'll continue chatting. So what I was saying there is, you know, if you start off with that and just think about whatever your business is, that for me, if you have a bigger goal in mind, a bigger legacy that you plan on leaving, it completely shifts the way you think about what you're doing on an ongoing basis. And you start to think longer picture. You start to think in terms of decades rather than years. You start to think in years rather than in months. And it also puts into fruition the whole thing that we've been taught for years about visualization and the power of visualizing, and something can manifest from that. And I was very much of the opinion that's kind of a bit woo-woo and a little bit out there. But when you actually take that idea of a foundation and you literally write it down, your name, let's say the Paul O'Mahony Foundation for Educating Children, you have literally taken that act of manifestation and made it real. You took a thought and turned it into reality. You took an idea and turned it into matter, which of course is the same word as making something matter. And your subconscious doesn't make any distinction between what you decide is real and what isn't real. So the moment you write that down and make it happen, your subconscious starts to put things in motion and actions into motion that will allow you to start to make this real and actually, you know, manifest in your real life, which is pretty incredible when you think about, you know, we think it's a very woo-woo, but in fact it's very real and something that anybody can do, especially change makers, because that's what will inspire others to follow in line with you leading the way. Sammy, I took over while you took a break there.
It looks like you carried the baton for me. Thank you so much. Everything just died. But thankfully, I can see from all the comments here that Paul, you keep talking. So I love it. I love it. You can tell why this guy won a Guinness Book of Records championship. Actually, why don't we just have a little bit of a stick into that bit, because I want to know more about that. What's this Guinness Book of Records thing?
Yeah, look, in fairness, I can't take much credit for that. I was part of the team. We've the longest ever public team talk. It was 126 hours without a break. So we took it in shifts. With speaking in a specific length of time. So yeah, it's definitely my strength, speaking in public, and it is difficult to stop me once I get going. But you will be the exact same. You know, when you said at the start, you know, how did you do that? It's when you connect to your higher cause or your bigger reason, everybody picks up on it. You just put out a different resonance, and it's through the computer. It's in the room. I know Bob will be talking about live streams at the event. It doesn't matter the platform. When you've got a message, it doesn't even matter how articulate you are or how good your vocabulary is. Somehow, when you are channeling your inner beliefs and what you really strongly feel about, your language seems to line up automatically. Your body language seems to line up automatically. People ask me, what movements, who are you studying when you are moving your hands and you're doing it? I said, nobody. I don't think you need to have all of this kind of the joke around it. You can just flow. It doesn't have to feel contrived if you truly believe in what you're talking about. I guess maybe that some people could say that's luck, but I don't think so. I think it comes down to sitting down and having a really deep discussion with yourself about, in 10 years from now, if money wasn't important and money was taken care of, design your perfect day from morning to night. And to begin with, people would say pina coladas and palm trees and white beach and blue sand and no kids. Well, you know what? You'll get bored with that. Let's assume you've done that for a month. Now what would you do? And most people will say, I want to make an impact. I want to get on a call and talk to people where I can make a change on the planet, where I want to look at Bill Gates. I mean, what an example. We're so lucky that you and me, Sammy, were brought up in a generation that if you were rich, you were mean, you were bad, you couldn't get to the top without trampling on everybody else to get there. There's a better chance of a camel getting through the eye of a needle than a rich person getting into the kingdom of heaven. I remember going home from church, looking at the needle, my granny's needle, and my toy camel, going, how is this going to happen, right? So think of the programming that we had around money being a negative. Now we see the wealthiest people in the planet. They're literally donating 90 to 95% of all their wealth to improving global causes. And if they have, I'm sure you've talked about this, Sammy. I haven't had a chance to watch all of your talks this week, but watch Warren Buffett's documentary on Netflix. Watch Bill Gates's documentary on Netflix. I have my own foundation that we run around educating children around money, but also with autism and different things that we've come across in our own life that we feel like, you know what? There's a reason we've been given this challenge. It's because we're going to solve this, or we're going to move this needle towards making it easier for other people to cope with what we see as a negative, without seeing the blessing, without seeing the upside and the downside.
Yeah, and that's so important to give up. In fact, at the Vision, Voice and Visibility Summit this weekend, the whole point of having the film producer flying over on Thursday to spend a week with me, she's going to come to the summit. She's going to interview the Changemakers there. We're going to look at how we can follow some of the journeys of Changemakers from the summit, what happened next. So we're looking at putting a docu-series together to follow Changemakers in what they go through. But most of the time, what I hear is the first thing that, I can't do it because here are usually the answers. I haven't got the money. Mm-hmm. Well, that's usually what they say first, but really what they don't have is the right mentors. Because if they had the right mentors, the money really, it would be insignificant in comparison to what they can achieve if they're doing the right thing first time. They haven't got the map. They don't know what they're doing. Where do I start? Where do I begin? They don't have the marketing skills. They're not sure how do they go out into the world and actually do this. And they're picking all kinds of things and just getting all reactionary and doing syndrome, I call it, because they see someone else doing it and think that that's right for them. That's not necessarily the strategy like we've talked about today. When you step into your ideal customer's shoes, where are they hanging out? What are they doing? What do they need and what do they want? And when you can do what Paul's done and create a need and a want, creates a desire that's bigger than the fear of not having it, is the fear, or the fear of having it over the fear of not having it. And so when you build that and you have the right mentors, the right map, the right money, you have all of those things in place, then you can build your movement. And when you can move people to action, and when you build a movement around anything, that's when you can literally sell anything. If you're doing it from the right reasons, as you've said today, Paul. And so that's why we want to create it, for exactly that reason you just said, because, like even my dad's map of the world, we were sitting, I've spoken about this before, we were sitting, I think it was last year, at home in France, and we're watching the telly, and The Apprentice or something came on. And Alan Sugar was on the telly, and I love any programs like that. I don't really watch anything else other than stuff like that. And so they're on the telly, and my dad says, I wonder how many people he trod on to get where he is. And I said, really? Is that what you think? He said, of course, yeah, because his experience is that's what people did to him to get where they wanted to go. I said, do you think that that's what I do to get as successful as we are? And he said, well, I don't know, probably. And I was crushed. I was absolutely crushed at that, you know, him thinking that. But like you said, I've not really thought about it that way. It was a generational thing. Now, when you look at, I don't hang around with anybody. I do not spend my time with people who don't care about making a bigger difference on the planet. That's what the whole one drop movement is. If you don't care about the ripple effect that you are making just by showing up with your one drop, it makes a difference. When you multiply a small number by a large number, it becomes a fucking enormous number. And you can make that impact in such a bigger way. And it doesn't always have to be about money. Paul, with your foundation and all the things that you've built, you know, how do you fit it all in? Because, you know, I think one of the biggest challenges, and we're actually going to cover this at the summit on, I think it's Gusha's talking on Sunday, about fears. Because it's one thing to say, I'm going to do this amazing visibility strategy. I know exactly what social media I need to do now. I know what blogging, I know what I'm doing. And then they get back to their office on Tuesday and the brand building bubble that they had that was all safe and all warm and yummy in a hotel for 3 days, they're not going to have that anymore. And so one of the fears that I said to Gosha that I really want to work on while we're in the room, it's not the fear of failure, not the fear of success, not the fear of not being enough, all of those things. It's the fear of how much your life has to change when you go out there and you build this movement. There's a massive fear around that. You know, looking at people who are too busy. Oh, I don't want that lifestyle. I want to be able to create that impact, but I don't want to have to do the things that they are doing to have achieved it. And, you know, and there's a big fear, there's a massive fear around that. So how do you get over that fear? You know, you've got a young family, you speak all over the world, you're doing the most amazing things, you've got this foundation, you've got several businesses. How do you fit it all in and put that fear to one side?
First of all, you need to sit down, and when people look at that, and that becomes the fear, you really need to tackle the question, am I just shifting the fear into a new zone? So it gives me another excuse to go back into inaction, because that's usually what it is. Now, I'm the antithesis of Gary Vee. Like, we couldn't be more different, where he's, you know, you need to be getting 70 to 80 pieces of content out per day. If you're not, you're a loser. You know, there's no need for a mentoring or a coach. All you need to do is a 4-letter word, which I was looking forward to hearing what it was. Work, WORK. And there's obvious. I love Gary. I've spoken with Gary multiple times on stage, and I really get it. But for most people, that's an easy reason to cop out, because they'll say, "There, look, he made it. That's how he did it. I admire him, and I appreciate everything that he's doing," is what they will say. But that's not me. I'm just not willing to do that. He's responding to 77 text messages an hour. Look, that's what it takes to be successful. So what you need to do is to find a role model in your space. And it doesn't matter if there's only 1 or 2 of them and there's 100 of the others. You focus on those 1 or 2 and you track those people down. And I haven't come up with this term. You haven't come up with this term, Sammy, which is success leaves clues. Ask them what they are doing. How did you get this in place? I'll answer about me in a moment, but I'm making it about others for a second. So what are you doing that enabled you to do this? So I come in a mastermind of all the speakers and promoters in the UK, and there's about 10% of them that I say, I'd like to live their lifestyle. The other 90%, no way. I don't want to live anything like the way they live, or whatever their values or their beliefs or their whatever way they're living their lives. But it's the people that I want to pick out and say, you know what, I admire that in you, and it might be something else I admire in somebody else. And I literally either pay them or I do an exchange of services for them to teach me how to do what they're doing. To go, you know, because I mean, I know you know this, but one of the biggest lies that we've been brought up to believe is that time is abundant and money is scarce, when it's exactly the opposite. Money has never been more abundant. Time has never been scarcer with social media and smartphones. So when you look at the wealthy, they use their time to buy money. They use their money to buy time, while people that are struggling for money use their time literally to buy money. So I look at people who figure this out, and I've been doing it for 10 years. I've been studying personal development for longer, and I literally still pay, in just one area alone, I pay one guy 100 grand a year to get me to do what I know I should do. That's his job. It's just to tell me to do what I know I should be doing, but that I won't do if I'm not held accountable by yet. And that sounds so mental to people. They're like, do you need to be checked into an asylum or something? I said, no, because that's worth it to me, because that'll make 10 million from that 100 grand investment by just me doing what I know I should be doing and holding myself accountable. And that's me now. So bring that back to wherever you are in your journey. If you don't have that role model and you don't have that perfect type of lifestyle that you can see where you can fit all of these in, you're never going to do it. You'll just use it as a fear and as an excuse. Instead, what you got to go hunt for the people who have made it successfully. And I always say this in my talks. I think one of the biggest reasons why people don't do a lot of things is because of something they've been brought up with their parents and their parents' parents and so on, which is, one, if it was that easy, everybody else would be doing it. And that's like the most common gremlin that comes up all the time. And then I said to people, well, seriously, do you want the results that everybody else has? And I say, well, I don't know. I said, look, hands up who wants to be a millionaire. And then, usually everybody hands up. I say, right, how many millionaires are there? Silence. I said, well, you know what the good news is? I said, there's good news and bad news. The good news is this: how seriously you've taken it. You haven't taken 10 seconds out of your life to Google what the odds are, just to see what the chances are. And I say, I'll save you the Googling. It's 35 million. That's 0.423% of people on the planet. 0.4% of people on the planet have figured out how to be millionaires. So why do we keep asking, why isn't everybody else doing it, when we want the results of 0.4%? We continue to focus our models on the people who have the results that we don't want. We do not go to our friend who struggles the most with their weight for advice around weight loss. But we do go to the people who struggle the most around money for advice around money, because they have great plans for your money. Usually it involves going from you to them. So you really need to wake up. And if anybody is saying you're selfish, look, there's one finger pointing at you, there's 3 fingers pointing back at yourself. If anyone is claiming somebody is selfish, what they mean is you are not performing acts that are in line with my highest values. So by default, you are being selfish. The irony, of course, in that conversation is that they are the ones projecting their values onto somebody else and asking others to give them what they want, when they have the whole thing in reverse order. So all this stuff is connected through physical health, financial health, spirituality, social, mental, vocational, family, fun, all those 8 areas. The same laws apply. Some people call them the laws of the universe. But the more I study in all these areas, I've studied 350 most popular religions in the world. I've spent 10 days in a row, 16 hours a day studying religion in terms of how they market it, how they get people to take action, how they use pain and pleasure as charge points, which you see in health, where you start to gain dis-ease with yourself if you're not at ease with yourself for long enough and your body is trying to charge you up to let you know. It's the same in money, it's the same in social scenes, and it carries all the way through. But it usually takes somebody else who's been there, who's done that, who gives you this overview and this shortcut to these nuggets of wisdom. Otherwise, you just do not have enough time in this lifetime to figure this stuff out. People already know whatever you want to know in any area in life. It's already out there. People know it. So you then use the excuse, it's on YouTube. You can learn anything on YouTube. And I said, yes, but you can learn how to do anything on YouTube, including buying a stock, selling a stock, buying a house, selling a house. But what you can't learn on YouTube is when is the right time to buy and sell a stock? When is the right time to buy and sell a house? You need experience to help you to know how to do the right thing at the right time. I know we're talking about a lot of different things here, Sammy, but they are linked. They are all linked.
Yeah. No, seriously, they are very, very important. And what I'm loving is we're covering so many things on today's show, today's interview, that we haven't covered before. So I'm all good for going down this avenue. Now, Paul, obviously we're just as we start to wrap up, getting to the end of this time that we've got together today. I know, but we're going to get to spend more time together at the Vision, Voice and Visibility Summit. So let's talk a little bit about that for a moment, because you are speaking. You're going to live stream in from Lanzarote. You've got 2 experts experts who are also going to be in the room at the time, who are helping to facilitate, because everything we do at the summit is workshop style. There's no selling from the stage. It's pure training and development. So you're going to deliver a workshop that's going to tell us what you're going to be doing with everybody there.
So very much in line with how the sequence of the 3 days are going. I mean, when we spoke, actually, I don't know if people know what happened, but this is really strange. But me and Sammy met on a street in Hammersmith at about 11:30 p.m. at night, going in opposite directions. Neither of us asked, by the way, what we were doing on the road at that time of night. But Sammy was, I was just thinking about you the other day. And that's how we reconnected. I mean, none of these things are by accident. And I guess Sammy knows that my whole movement is about rethink and just giving people the tools to empower them to think differently. Because what we've been brought up to believe, we all know ultimately we're not ultimately happy with the results that we have. We're following a system that's flawed, and there's lots of reasons behind that. So I speak on different things like rethinking the way you manage your time, social media, your money, all these kind of things. But I think the best fit for our talk on Monday is at that point in your journey, people are going to want to know, right, I've established what I'm about, my brand, my message, who I want to get in front of, different ways of doing it, podcasting, etc., which is all amazing. But it doesn't matter how great your content is if nobody knows where it is and where to find you. Yeah. So we'll be taking, and when I say we, it's going to be me, my Instagram expert, and my LinkedIn expert. We will together start to show you practically what are the steps you can start taking right there in the room to start to grow your brand and expose yourself, maybe not literally, but to expose your brand on social so that you start to get visibility in very simple ways, and also to overcome the fear that people have. So I'm not confident about speaking in front of the camera. I don't want to speak. Can I be hidden? Can I do this? Can I be on social media and not be on it? And these are totally normal questions to ask. So it's the distinction between brand and person. Which are you going to be? You'll already have that pretty much nailed, Sammy, I'm sure. So then it's what do you do next, practically speaking, to get yourself out there on the likes of Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and we'll take the opportunity to, between the three of us, walk you through that journey so you have a very clear, coherent plan on what to do when you leave.
I love this because it's like, we're breaking so many boundaries at this event. And all of it has been kind of divinely given every step of the way. So with Paul's interview, we were trying to work out how could we get Paul from Lanzarote to Manchester, and it just wasn't happening. I said, okay, well, what about live streaming? Could you live stream? And he said, okay, let me think about it. And then he said, actually, I've got an expert in Manchester and an expert in Leeds, which is like 35 minutes up the road. Had we been doing this in London, this would not have been happening. And usually all these events, they all happen in London. Just so happens it's in Manchester, where these people pretty much live. And I think what this is really showing and demonstrating is that not only can you build a global brand and have an impact, like Paul is able to have an impact on the audience that we have spent 9 months talking and cultivating and bringing the right people in the room. This is not an event that we have marketed. Everything has been word of mouth only. We only want change makers who want to make a difference and want to build a global business. There's no point being in the room if that is not you. So we've really been very careful with who we've selected. So we've got the right people in the room. And this is really demonstrating that Paul can talk to these amazing people from wherever he is and have feet on the ground. But not only that, we're getting 3 for the price of 1 in one presentation. That's pretty new.
Yeah. And it's going to be very inspiring, actually, I think, for you guys to hear these guys' stories. For example, Jake, we met on the beach in Fiji 2.5 years ago, maybe 3 now. And he was a head teacher in Manchester, decided to travel the world with his partner for a year. And they'd literally spent all their money, were about to go back to his job. And he just could not understand how I was being paid while I was sitting on a beach in Fiji. And he came to my workshop with his mother, actually. And obviously he quit his job as a teacher and all this kind of stuff. And Jason, he was my first ever business partner from 10 years ago. I got phenomenal background and story and all this. But you know, when you asked me there earlier, how do you balance all of this? And there are boundaries around everything you do. Everything you say yes to, you have to say no to. And one of my rethink model, the K in final word rethink, is knowing when to say no. And sometimes a no can be a yeah. And this is the perfect example. In the world that we live in today, I can be in Lanzarote with my family, who I committed to all year long that I was going to spend 3 weeks in December there, and still be on stage live in Manchester and still deliver an even better experience than if I had been there myself. So there are always ways to make it happen. But if you're not surrounded by people who don't accept, oh, that won't work as an answer, you're going to easily take the easy option out most of the time.
Right. Yeah. And there's so many people that are saying, oh, but I can't go to the summit because I've got this. Or, well, I mean, we've taken all of those issues away. If you can't get there physically, you can live stream in. If you go to the link that's on the screen now, you know, we've invested another £2,000 to make sure we've got a hardwire connection. We've got a film company coming in. They're properly live streaming it. We're not talking about just holding a phone up and Facebook living it. This is a proper production. You know, there's been no expense spared on making sure the quality of this event, because the quality of the people in the room are worth it. And so, you know, that's something that if you want to live stream in, you also get access to the Global Movement Makers group that we've set up, which is just only for the people who are either live streaming or attending this event, because you all are investing in receiving the experience. And you also get the recordings of all the professional editing after it's been done. So we'll get them up onto a website where you've got access to those as well. You know, so there is no excuse not to be there. Even if you can't stream in live, you've still got the recordings. Make sure if you go to that link that's on there now, you can choose whichever option is right for you. I think all the VIPs are now sold, so there's general admission tickets only. Paul, I'm so excited about us finally flipping playing together. And I interviewed Paul for a magazine that I used to publish about 5 or 6 years ago. That was the first time. My friend Kim Vincenti, she commented on the post I put out earlier. She went, "Oh, Paul's a sweetheart," or something. I said, "You probably edited his article," because she used to be the editor for my magazine. So it's so funny how this goes around. And actually, when you were talking, you know, talking about meeting people in funny places, Tom Mooster, who is managing all of our mobile messenger stuff, he's going to be, he's built in an element of registration so that every single person that registers for the event, they're going to get their mobile wallet. They can open that up. They can see any of the offers that the speakers are doing, special deals for people who are at the event. Remember, there's no selling from the stage. So the only way you can get access to these things is to actually go into the app and find out, you know, what is it that they're doing. So Tom's building that. And I met Tom. He was introduced to me on Facebook Messenger about a year ago, and he was given such a high recommendation. We were meant to talk, and every time he contacted me, I no word of a lie, every time he sent me a message, I was sat on a seat on a plane ready to take off somewhere. And it just happened because I was on a tour. So like literally every time. And this went on for about 3 months. Every time he messaged me, I was sat on a plane. I said, "You're not going to believe this. This is the last time he messaged me. You're not going to believe this. I am literally about to fly to Bali. So like, we need to plan this conversation for when I get back." And he said, "Bali? Whereabouts in Bali are you going?" So I got the address and I told him. And I said, "Why, where are you?" He said, "I'm in Bali. We must meet while you're here." So I delivered the retreat that we were delivering for, I think it was about 5 or 7 days. This was back in March this year, eventually. He came across to our villa. We ended up going out for the day. Actually, no, we went out for the day first. So we actually met in an infinity pool overlooking the ocean in Bali at this like private resort place. And then the next we talked and we got on so well, he came to our villa the next day, and that's where we were doing business. So, and he is flying from Bali as we speak, I believe. He's on a plane coming to Manchester. So you're going to get to meet Tom. And Tom is just amazing. And like you say, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. Us bumping into each other on I live in Manchester and spend most of my time either on a plane in France or at home in Manchester. I'm not in London very often. I happened to be in London that weekend because I was taking my stepson to an event so that he could be at the event. So I wasn't meant to be there. I mean, it's just mind blowing. And we just happen to meet each other in the street.
Yeah.
How's that?
I know.
Absolutely crazy. Looking forward to the gig of Paul. Brilliant. So useful, Paul. Sammy, thank you for inviting such amazing. Oh, you are very welcome. Very, very welcome. I spend my life looking for the one drops where we can create an ocean of collaborative opportunities together. That's really what I see as my mission in life, is to liberate others through liberating you and your message, so that we are together making a global difference. Paul, we've run out of time. We can't. We're done. I'm so gutted that you're so full of golden nuggets, but I think we'll save those extra sprinkles of magic for when we're in the room together on Monday next week. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for making that time available, and to your family for kind of allowing us to borrow you for this time that we've got you for. Thank you. Give them our love and say thank you very much.
I will do. You're more than welcome. And guys, if you have excuses, I can guarantee you'll have the exact same excuses this time next year. You know, if you don't want to be in that position of constantly having to do things that you don't want to do, that's the exact reason why you gotta take ownership of this. I love the title Changemakers, because 99.9% of the planet are change responders. And that's exactly what your response of I can't go with an excuse. You're responding to change, you're reactive. The only way that you can make that proactive is becoming a change maker, live life on your terms, make an impact on your terms, and let those drops become puddles, and let's connect those puddles into streams of inspiration, and we really can make a massive difference.
I love it. Don't be a change responder, become a change maker. Boom. What a great one-liner to end this on. Paul, thank you very much.
I'm sending you big everybody.
Those of you that have tuned in, thank you for bearing with us through some technical gremlins as well. Thank you, Paul. Just kept swimming. It was like, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. You got it nailed. Guys and girls, I look forward to seeing you at the Vision, Voice and Visibility Summit. Like I say, if you haven't got your ticket yet, there is the link to go and get it. Live stream in if you can't get there physically, or get the recordings for the event, because it's important that you do get access to this information, so you're not sat in the same place you are this time next year. Take care. I will be back tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. GMT time. So we're on part 9 of how to wreck your personal brand. So I want you to avoid all the things that I'm talking about as part of this 9-part series. So I'll see you at 8 a.m. GMT on this channel, and then we'll be back tomorrow for the next Changemaker interview. So take care, and I will see you there. Mwah.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening.